Today I'm with two representatives of Cancer Care North Central Washington. I'm with Norma Scovill, who is the president of the organization, and I got Shirley Leslie with us. She's the vice president. And so we're going to chat a little bit about what Cancer Care of North Central Washington is all about. And but many of you may not recognize that name, but you may recognize the name Our House. Am I doing okay so far?
Perfect. Absolutely, absolutely.
You'll cut that part out. So anyway, I would imagine some people in our community aren't aware of what you do. They may have heard the name. So Norma, what is your mission?
Well, I'll tell you, it's what we do is we address cancer patients in alleviating all their rigors of cancer, what they're going through, and how we can help them. And with Our House, it means housing. We also help with other social services. We help with food. We help with prescriptions. We help with travel costs and other things that come up too. I mean, there may be some rent that needs to be paid. I mean, it's usually a very individual type thing that we look at each recommendation that comes in, and we deal with Confluence Health. And so it's a great networking procedure because we deal with the oncology radiation department and the social worker there. And so patients are directed to Our House and also to Cancer Care for the services that are provided there. And so, yeah, does that help answer your question?
It does. I'm curious as to where these people come from that reside in your facility. I know that, working with Confluence, you're able to identify probably that way who needs some help. Right. But what region or what area do you cover?
Well, we do cover a 4-county area, basically, which would be Chelan, Douglas, Grant, Okanagan counties. And so really it was started early on because patients needed treatment, and they would have to come to Wenatchee to get their treatment, and they may have to travel over 100 miles to get that treatment. So they needed a place to stay. And so when you look back at the history of Cancer Care Our House, there was this wonderful nurse, Betsy Tontini, and some of your viewers may recognize her name. She was an oncology nurse who said, hey, something has to happen here where we need to help these people because they may not seek treatment. And there were a group of cancer survivors, there are a number of them that are still part of our organization today. And they got together and they came up with this dream of a place for cancer patients to stay. And so to this day, our patients come from 100, 150 miles away. They may be from Brewster, they may be from Omak, they may be from Moses Lake. We've even had guests from Wenatchee because their households are too hectic. And it's nice to have this respite place to go. And Shirley can vouch for Our House. She is a wonderful volunteer, welcomes guests as they come in. And I think you could tell us a little bit about that, where it's a warm feeling. It's a hug walking in the front door. And you provide that.
I do.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Well, I got started with Our House when my youngest son, who I lost 9 years ago at the age of 54 from melanoma. And one of my dear friends at the time, who's with another organization that I'm with, said, Shirley, you ought to think about going down to Our House and looking around. So she told me a little bit about it, and ironically, a few years later, her husband also died of cancer. None of us knew that he had it at the time. So I did, and I fell in love with the people there. I enjoy being there, and I have a special connection because of losing someone in my own family, especially a child, even though he was a man at 54. And one of my favorite couples that I remember actually came from Tri-Cities, and they did have a daughter and son-in-law who lived here, whose home was too small. And they were just lovely, lovely people, and he had throat cancer. And I'm happy to say that he was completely cured, and they just celebrated another birthday 3 years later. So that's a joyous thing. I stay in touch with them through their daughter. And just being here, it means so much to the people who come from their own home and have to be displaced and not stay in a motel. And my son lived in Yakima, so when we were going back and forth to be with him, we were staying in motels, hotels, eating out. And one of the joys of our house is his home. It's a beautiful 8-bedroom, 4-bathroom home with a family room, sitting rooms, a beautiful dining room, and people truly are comfortable there, and they tell us that. And they bring their own food. We also have a lot of donations of food from various sources here in the Wenatchee Valley that we share with them. People bring in fruit. I was there yesterday, and there was a big bowl of peaches someone had brought in, and people like to make treats and bring them for the patients. So it's a joyous place to be for people like myself who want to help others and can relate to them. And I was absolutely honored when I was asked to be on the board and then made vice president. I've been on many, many boards over the years, and I have to say this is without a doubt the best group of people I have ever worked with ever. They're caring, they're kind. As Norma said, we are really a team, and everybody just gets along so incredibly well. So I'm very proud to be on this particular board in this time in my life.
And it sounds like you've been helping out there for about 10 years or so?
About,
almost?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And so we got on the subject of volunteers. So about how many volunteers does it take to make this thing run?
We have about 100.
We do,
Wow.
we do. And of course, during these COVID times, our volunteer force hasn't been able to be at the house in such force, but we have found other ways for them to help. They will do things at home, some virtual things, writing thank yous, and keeping in touch with guests, and coordinating with our wonderful, wonderful volunteer coordinator, Becky Elwell, who is at the house every day, and she is the one who coordinates our guests, the patients, and the caretakers, and also our volunteers. And so it's been a struggle a bit, because when we think about our volunteer force, they all want to come back. But you know what? We've really been following the guidelines, and really, because of the safety for everyone involved, we really felt it necessary we are limiting the number of people who are able to stay at the house, and at the same time serving guests who, if the house is full, we are so happy to say that we've been able to help people by housing them in hotels, which isn't as great as staying at the house, but it does provide an alternative for them to be able to get treatment. And so people are so grateful for that too. But we are so looking forward to the day when we can bring back all our volunteers. And it is amazing how many volunteers it takes to make it work.
Yeah.
I mean, inside, outside, with work days, and it's quite an operation. I always think of it as a wheel, and you got all these cogs in the wheel, and we like to tease our, she's going to hate me for saying this, but she's she is the wheel, and we say you are the face, and that's dear Becky, who just really, you walk in there and she looks at you and you are her main concern. She makes every guest feel that way, and it's quite an operation. And we at some point will welcome visitors. Please come and see what happens here, because it speaks for itself.
Yeah.
It truly does. And I can't say enough good about it, and I'm passionate. I know you're passionate. Maybe we're too passionate, but it's okay.
It's okay. We give as much as we wish to give.
Yes. And I think people who become involved are people who have been touched by cancer.
Yeah.
Maybe cancer survivors themselves or family members. Really quite unites you. And I think about a person who's going through life. And this could be any of us. And life is going on, and all of a sudden you get a diagnosis of cancer. Wait a minute. No. And all of a sudden you were on this road, and now you're over here. You don't want cancer. Who wants cancer? Who wants to take that trip? Well, everyone who comes in our doors, they're feeling that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember one guest came in and said, and she screamed to the top of her lungs and said, "I've got cancer." Like, it was all, I mean, it was a moment that I'll never forget. And another guest came up to her and said, "I do too, but we're going to be okay. You know, today is the date, grab it." And so, yeah.
So the support mechanisms
support
there too.
is really important.
That's a big deal for people struggling with it. Yeah.
Yes.
So how many years has the organization existed, and is there some history as far as where you've been located? Have you ever had to move? What's the history?
Actually, we're going to be celebrating 28 years in September.
In the same location?
Not the same location. It actually, when the house came into being, a house was purchased on Fernie Street here in town, and it worked out well for a few years. And then, because needed more room and whatever, plans were made. Fundraising was big time, and I wasn't here at that time, but I see pictures and I hear stories, because we have people who have been with Cancer Care from the very beginning who are able to share all these things with us, that it was a mega effort. And Betsy Tontini was the force, and her husband happened to be a builder. How fortunate is that? And so her husband, Nevio, built the house. And so it was really constructed with everything in mind as to what our guests would need. And I still think back to one of the reunions was probably the 25th or 20th. And we invited all our people to come back who had stayed at the house. And patients who were cancer survivors, and they were so happy to be there. And I remember one man looked at Nevio and said, "I remember you. You handed me a hammer and you said, 'Get to work.'" So it was quite an operation. So, 28 years.
So I'm sure that you're in need of a lot of resources. How do you raise the money? I imagine you do. Maybe Leslie, you'd like to talk to some of the fundraising that you do, because I'm pretty sure you've got a lot of needs.
Well, one of the things that we do that's really important, and again, Becky sort of spearheads this, but we have what we call One Day at a Time, and I just recently donated on behalf of my son. And so his birthday, or whatever day I choose, will be on a bulletin board in our house. That generates a considerable amount for us. We also, here at the Senior Center, and participate in the Christmas Bazaar. And all of us who volunteer make cookies and candy, and we sell that. People buy tickets and sell it. And then we have a lady whose name I don't know, maybe Norma does, who buys an American doll every year and makes this fabulous wardrobe, all of it by hand, and that is also auctioned off. People buy the tickets and auction that off. So those are just two of the things that we do. We're looking at other ideas. Staff is contributing to some ideas. One of the thoughts that I have is maybe 4 times a year we do like a seasonal, just designate a season. So we look at different ways.
We do. And there's another one that we do that has been highly supported in the Valley. It's called the Birthday Bash. And it's a summer promotion kind of a thing where people donate on behalf of their birthday or a loved one's birthday, and helps us celebrate Cancer Care's birthday. And there are people who have favorite fundraisers that they love to support. And I'd like to thank the donors who have really supported Cancer Care Our House, because we know that you're out there, and over and over and over again, you have supported everything that we seem to.
We do.
We do, and we don't. If you think about Cancer Care Our House, you know, a lot of people don't even know where we are, let alone it's a hidden jewel in the Valley, right? But that's why we want to get the word out there for the wonderful work that's out that is done there. Yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah, thank you.
So you're a completely independent organization. You belong to any nationwide or regional association or anything like that? You're just on your own?
No, we do not.
No, totally locally
Totally
supported.
locally
I know the feeling. It takes a lot of effort to figure out where all the resources are going to come
Yes,
from. And we're in a
yes.
similar situation here. I imagine you pursue grant money and things like that to help along the way.
We do.
And it's rather vigorous. Isn't it,
yes,
Shirley?
it's rather
Shirley loves that
vigorous.
process.
Well, I used to write grants, and then I was on the board of directors for United Way for King County for several years, and so it's always kind of taxing the brain to go back to those roots. But we were just recently granted a lovely grant from the Community Foundation that enabled us to buy a brand new computer and all of the things that were required with computers, as well as a new telephone system. And they are both things that have been badly needed in our house for several years.
Yes, and also it also is providing a springboard to provide outreach, to look into other things that we can do, because this is such a virtual world. Technology plays such a big part. So we are looking at ways and people who can help us do them to reach out, and especially to people who are, maybe they're 20-somethings, 30-somethings, 40-somethings, and they've been busy with their life and whatever, but a lot of their communication is done through digital, virtual devices that maybe the message of Cancer Care, our house, we can reach them through that way. So we're looking at how can we branch out and really grow the organization and be more savvy and be able to do these things. So we're really, really looking at that as far as reemergence. It's kind of that way. And speaking for other grants too, we were very fortunate in receiving a grant from the Paul Lozier Foundation, which is located in Ephrata. They were extremely generous. We were able to replace beds at the house, which they get a lot of use, and we were so grateful. They actually gave us more than what we were asking for, which that's a stunning thing.
That's unusual.
That's very stunning. Yes. And so, given that, I have to put a plug in for Save Mart. He gave us a great deal.
Yes,
yes, indeed, yes. And so, these beds are all fully adjustable, very comfortable. That way, patient, it's just very good. We're very grateful too.
So your residents, when they come there, is there an obligation on their part to pay for their stay? Is there a minimal amount? Is there any of that?
No, you know what? We never look at it that way at all. If they would like to make a donation, and we don't even, I would say 80% of our people who stay do not have the ability to pay. And that's okay. That's okay. We don't look at, that's not what we're looking at. And then there are those that would like to make a donation, and you look at $20 a night, if that. But we don't ask for that. We really focus on being able to help them. And so that's where one of the other things I have to mention is, how you file all those forms with the Secretary of State, and you've got these mandated forms that you have to, on a yearly basis, fill. We knew this, but we didn't have a number. And it was calculated that 97% of what comes in to Cancer Care is actually going back to patient services, which is like a wow.
That's a big wow.
I mean, it's a big wow. Yeah, big wow. So, so that's where we hope to stay.
If someone wants to find out more about your organization, where can they go? I imagine you have a good website that people can refer to.
I think we do.
Why don't you mention that, and also phone number, contact, or email if you wish.
Sure. All right. It's www. I guess I don't have to say that, do I? It's cancercareNCW.com. Just go there. It's a fabulous website. It also goes over a lot of what our needs are right now. Say you want to do something today. Well, I'll tell you what. Water. We need water. Paper products. White hand towels. For some reason, I don't know why, but we need those a lot. And coffee pods, coffee, juices, different food items, TV dinners, that kind of thing. So these are all staples that people can use when they're there. And if you want to make a meal and bring it over, just let us know. Phone number, call between 9 and 3 to our house, and you'll be speaking probably with Becky Elwell. And the number is 663-6964. And she'll let you know what we need, and we'll go from there.
But I guess what we've heard then is most of the people are referred to you by the hospital, people undergoing cancer treatment. Is that pretty
That's
much how
correct.
it works? Yeah.
Word of
Okay.
mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have done a little outreach and going up to Okanagan and speaking before a couple of the groups up there.
Uh-huh.
So there is some word of mouth as
Yeah.
well. We've had some people from the Indian Reservation in the Omak area,
Yes.
Okanagan area, and that has been word of mouth as well.
Word of mouth is a big deal in this valley, especially.
It is.
We've learned that.
Yes, it is.
Well, I want to thank both of you for joining me today, and we've learned a whole lot more about our house. And I wish you good luck, goodwill, and we're going to plow through this COVID and come
Yes,
out
we are.
in really good shape at the end.
Absolutely.
indeed.
And thank you for having us. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.